Welcome to Wisdom Inspired, a podcast designed to help high achievers to eliminate burnout and overwhelm. Now let's prepare to open our hearts, our minds, and our notebooks to receive today's wisdom.
Our third installment in our series of spiritual keys to living clutter-free. And our goal in this series is for us to consider the fact that clutter that you see around you is an indication of what's going on inside. The spiritual clutter, the thoughts, the worries, all of this that wastes our time and energy and keeps us from being focused on the things that really, really matter, right? And so in the previous episodes, we talked about the first two keys. The first key was forgiveness and practicing forgiveness. And then our second key was on fearfulness and analyzing fear. So today I want to talk about the third spiritual key, and that is fruitful, being fruitful. And so being fruitful is about producing good results. It's defined as being profitable, bearing fruit abundantly, producing an abundant growth, producing good or helpful results, right? And so in Colossians 1 and 9, verses 9 and 10, Paul says this prayer to the Colossians believers. He says, "For this reason, since the day we heard about you, we have not stopped praying for you. We continually ask God to fill you with the knowledge of his will through all the wisdom and understanding that the Spirit gives, so that you may live a life worthy of the Lord and please him in every way, bearing fruit in every good work, growing in the knowledge of God." So we see here that in order to produce fruit or be fruitful, you must be growing in the knowledge of God. In order to grow in the knowledge of God, he must be filling you. He must fill you. In order for him to fill you, you must be connected to him, the source. How do we know that? According to John 15 and 5, Jesus said, "I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing." So this call to be fruitful in every good work is for every Christian, every believer without exception. Why? Because the finished work that was done on the cross, it's already finished. It's finished because of his life in us and through us, and the operation of God's Spirit is within us. Therefore, all true work must be fruitful. Now, a part of that process is the removal or the purging of non-bearing excessive stuff, right? Superfluous stuff, right? And this is necessary for continued growth and production. Jesus said, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the farmer." This is John 15, 1 and 2. "Every branch in me that doesn't bear fruit, he takes away. Every branch that bears fruit, he prunes that it may bear more fruit." This concept of fruitfulness and being fruitful is found throughout the Scriptures, right? In fact, it's also found in Genesis, the book of beginnings. Genesis 1 and 22. God was talking to Adam and Eve. He said, God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the water in the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth." Then in Genesis 17 and 16, and 6, sorry, I'm going too fast, when God reveals his covenant promise to Abraham, he says, I will make you extremely fruitful. I will make nations of you, and kings will descend from you. Then in Genesis 35 and 11, when the Lord reconfirms his promise to Jacob, his promises to Jacob, it says, then God said to him, I am the sovereign God. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation, even a company of nations, will descend from you. Kings will be among your descendants. So we understand that being fruitful and fruit-bearing is a very serious matter. So much so that in Mark and Matthew, they record that while Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem from Bethany, he approaches a fig tree. Y'all remember the story. He discovered that the fig tree had no fruit on it and cursed the tree, saying, may no fruit ever come from you again. Now we know that this is a metaphor for spiritual health. And we also know that God's people are to be yielding fruit that blesses the world. So I want to share a quick story with you. A few weeks ago, my old paper shredder finally played out. So I purchased a new shredder, right? I got it in the mail, opened it up, plugged up the new one, shredded one sheet. Then the sensor light started blinking. It was turning blue, then it was turning red. Turning blue, then it was turning red. And so according to the instructions, it auto shuts off when it's overheating. So I'm like, this thing, I just got it. I just opened the box. So it shouldn't be overheating like that. So I called customer service and described what was going on. And she said, well, sometimes the products, they sit in the warehouse over a period of time, where it's hot, it can cause damage to the sensor. Or, she said, it could even be a defective sensor, or, perhaps sitting in the warehouse caused it to malfunction. And she said, if it continues, just return it. And I said, oh, okay. So I followed her instructions, but nothing ever changed. It kept doing the same thing as though it was overheating. So I then went online to the site, began the process of returning the shredder. And so I followed all the instructions, and everything. And so as I described the problem, with the shredder, clicked the button, and the immediate response was, your refund is being processed. No need to return it. Simply donate it or trash it. I shared this because when we look at a sensor, sensors are responsible for detecting and responding to input, whether it's light, heat, motion, moisture, pressure, whatever. And in the overall scheme of things, spiritual decluttering may seem insignificant, but unforgiveness and fearfulness can really damage your spiritual sensor, like discernment. When our sensor is off or destructive or obstructed, it's harder to detect when we're in spiritual danger because we become desensitized to the world's tactics, to the enemy's tactics. And the whole point of what I'm trying to share with you, that I'm trying to get across to you, that there's a link between the physical clutter and the spiritual clutter. And this overage and excess clutter is always an indication of what's going on inside, and it shows up externally and spills over into the other areas of our lives. It spills over into your business. It spills over into your personal life. It spills over into your financial life. It spills over into your relationships. And it can cause you to become fruitless. rendering you fruitless, right? And so I'm challenging you today. I'm challenging you to be aware of that spiritual sensor, right? Because it could be causing some unfruitfulness in your life. So I challenge you to ask yourself questions on a regular basis. Am I producing fruit? Is it good fruit? Am I investing in others? Are my activities fruit-producing activities? Am I having fruitful conversations, or am I engaging in gossip or tearing others down? Am I sowing seeds of discord? These are all indications of the connection between that spiritual clutter and that physical clutter that can show up in our lives and cause us to be unfruitful. I really hope that this is making sense. I'm not even sure if I did a good job of connecting all of this. But the thing that I do know is that he takes fruitfulness very seriously. And there is a purging process that happens. He prunes things that's not bearing fruit, right? And sometimes, even though our sensors may be off, we may not be detecting because of we may not be able to detect some things because our sensor is off and our discernment is off. But I promise you, if you begin to challenge yourself and ask yourself these questions, you may have some questions of your own to help you in this process. But the main thing I want to get across to you today is that there is a connection between spiritual clutter and physical clutter, and it's always an indication of what's going on inside. In closing, I want to leave you with this scripture. Jeremiah 17:7-8 says, "But blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. They will be like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream. It does not fear when heat comes." I hope y'all getting that. Its leaves are always green. It has no worries in a year of drought and never fails to bear fruit. I hope today's wisdom has inspired you in your spiritual and entrepreneurial journey. I hope that you're taking this information, and I hope it's going through your channel of discernment. See what God is saying to you. Go back to these scriptures that we always share with you, and don't just consume the information, but take action. That is always out.
I hope you enjoyed the episode of Wisdom Inspired that was brought to you by the AAC Co-working Community, a virtual community designed to support female entrepreneurs, business owners, and freelance professionals. For more, go to wisdominspired.net.